I'm trying to get harder and tougher mentally and physically every day of my life.
You're either the growth mindset or you're the fixed mindset.
If you're trying to be the best, you need to look at who the best is and see what they do.
Relentless pursuit of progress.
There's a difference between the best and the rest.
Welcome to the Brute Strength Podcast.
Champions are built in the mind first.
Where we interview scientists, world champions, doctors, and experts in just about every area of health and fitness.
What do you care enough about? What are you fascinated enough about to go so deep and learn so much that you'll know more about it than anyone else?
And now, here's your host, Michael Cazayoux.
Welcome back. This is Michael Cazayoux, and you're listening to the Brute Strength Podcast. Today I've got John Goodman on the show. John is not the same guy as the co-star of Roseanne. He is the owner of the Personal Trainer Development Center, the PTDC, and the Online Trainer Academy. He's also written 7 books, still in his early 30s, including his most popular book, The Fit Pro's Guide to Online Training. John has been incredibly successful in his career at a really young age. He's helped thousands of people make better careers in the fitness industry. And what I love most about John is how intentional he is in not only in business, but in applying principles across his entire life. I'm always looking for wise people to talk to and to learn from. And he's one of the wisest people I think I've had on the show in quite a while. He is super ethical. It's obvious that he's really trying to make a difference in the world. And I also love how a lot of his advice and a lot of his ideas are completely contradictory to industry norms. So this one was fascinating, wide-ranging. Specifically, what we talk about is, first off, there's just so much opportunity in the fitness industry, whether that be in running gyms or starting online businesses. But it can be really scary to take a chance at one of these opportunities. If you're working a 9-to-5 right now, or you are in school and you're thinking about getting into the fitness industry, you're thinking about making a change, it can be really scary. And so we start off talking about how to overcome this fear. We talk about the time that a kinesiology student asked what she should do with her degree since it's impossible to make any money in the fitness industry. And then we talk about, in a world of basically infinite options for how you can reach new people, why he chooses to focus on doing one thing only to reach more people, which is writing books. No podcasts, no videos, none of that. We talk about how he eliminates everything in his life that doesn't really matter so he can focus on the few things that really do, how he thinks about networking and creating relationships in business, the biggest mistakes he sees trainers making, the power of talking to 5 people a day, and much, much more. This was an amazing conversation, so please help me welcome John Goodman. John Goodman, what's up, brother? It's great to have you here.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Do you have any good stories about having the same name as the co-star of Roseanne?
Oh, dude, you're starting here, huh? This is what we're starting with. I don't, although it's been a secret dream of mine since day one. Like, my motivation in business has been to get big enough that he actively seeks me out. Right. But he is great. I mean, like he's, even if it wasn't for the name, like, he's always been one of my favorite actors. I mean, back to Roseanne days, like Monsters, Inc., but even like Big Lebowski, dude. Fantastic.
So damn good.
But then even movies that are, I guess, a little bit less known, like The Artist was like an homage to black and white movies. And John Goodman's character, I think they might have even won an Oscar. It was an incredible movie.
That's awesome.
He's just one of those guys. He had a huge weight loss a couple years ago too. That was super cool for me. The one thing that I will say from a business standpoint is one of the most powerful link backs that I have in my entire company is Grantland. And it was one of the top sports writers in the world basically put out a call and said, who has the most ironic name shared by a celebrity? And it was Johnathan Goodman, the personal trainer, with John Goodman.
Amazing. I have a funny story about meeting him in person in New Orleans. We used to go to this, it's a beignet place. So a beignet is like a French donut. And we always used to go as kids. I grew up around there, and we used to go to this little place in, I think, Metairie, out like in a part of New Orleans. And there was this little magazine store next door that my cousin that was about my age and I would always go in after eating beignets. And at the back of the magazine store, there was this like hidden section with all of the Playboys with the like there was like a piece of cardboard covering it. And we were we were up to no good trying to get a sneak peek at some of the inside covers or anything or whatever. And we're walking out of doing that one day. And I run almost.
This was like an ongoing thing.
What's that?
It was Tuesday, and obviously this is always what we did on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
So we're walking out from that day.
And I run almost smack dab in the middle of his large belly, and we had like a picture or something like that.
Was he also trying to see what was behind the cardboard?
I think he probably was. He was probably just on the way in as we were on the way out. We didn't talk about it.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good man.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that.
Anyway, man, let's dive into your story. You have a really powerful story about when you dropped everything and moved to Hawaii, and I think this was a big impetus for a lot of change in your life. So maybe we can start there. What happened?
Sure. I mean, I was a personal trainer from the time that I basically turned 18. You know, I was a personal trainer at the University of Western Ontario, which is where I went to university from 2nd to 4th year. And when I graduated, you know, I was a trainer full time, and basically I did everything like super early. By the time I was 23 years old, I was at the point that like I was at kind of the top of the profession, I guess, kind of. You know, I was earning as much as you could charge. I was managing a group of trainers. I was even getting a commission from referring my overload of clients to other trainers. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, so I started looking into other streams of income and stuff like that. This is back in like 2008, right? 2009. So the internet was there, but it wasn't like in your face like it is today. Mm-hmm. And long story short, got into online marketing reasonably early and figured out that I was pretty good at it really early, like back in like 2011, 2012. And that was kind of like the heyday of affiliate marketing. And so I had the site, and so I figured out that I could set up a whole bunch of websites. Like I could set up like a new website every day or two and actually rank them better than any other website and get commissions from people finding that website and then linking into a fat loss product or something like that and buying it. And commissions were like 75 to 100%. Like it was reasonably good money. The problem was, what good was I doing in the world? Mm-hmm. And so I was doing this, and I basically just like felt like I was spiraling downward. I was with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and I didn't respect her as much as I should. Like, didn't spend as much time. Like the classic story of building up a business, right? Everything's about me, and I don't need to see my family, and I was selfish, and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't really think that there was a way that I could get out of it if I stayed in Toronto. Like I was kind of in too deep, and so literally on a whim, I ran away from the world. I moved to Hawaii by myself. I split from my girlfriend at the time. And I spent 3 months in Oahu, which like sounds really romantic. It's like, oh, you know, like I was like, I don't know, 27, 28 or something at the time. You know, single guy moves to the North Shore of Oahu during surf season by himself. This like beautiful romantic story. It was by far the most difficult time in my life. And super lonely. I'd go 4 or 5 days without speaking to another human being. And just kind of figured out everything, man. I shut down all of that crap that I was doing, promoting six-pack workouts and talking about the best fat loss hack you never tried and all of that crap that anybody in the industry knows really doesn't do anybody much good. And after 3 months in Oahu, moved to Maui and built stuff back up. Like I shut down multiple businesses. I shut down dozens of websites. And I started building my back up in a very purposeful manner. And so, and then Allison, who's my wife now, actually came and visited me a week before I left Hawaii. We hadn't talked that entire time, and now we're married. And I honestly don't think that we would be together and have as good of a relationship if we didn't have that split. And it also gave me just this viewpoint of what I wanted to do. I'm so happy that I kind of took that time early on in my business journey to say, okay, like what am I doing and why am I doing it, and what the heck am I trying to accomplish with this? Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's harder and harder to do these days, just to get away from it all and look at it as an outsider. I always think of that scene in Men in Black, the final scene where there's like in Men in Black 1 where there's like the aliens like with the little like planets in their hands, and they're like playing with them. I'm like, what if you could actually take a step back and look at the world that you exist in as an outsider? You know, because when you're right up against a tree, all you can see is bark. When you take 5 steps back, you can see a couple trees. But if you actually take the time to climb up the hill that overlooks the valley that the tree's in, you can actually see the path around the tree. And you would never see that if you were right up against the tree. And so I'm just super happy that I did that both personally and professionally.
Do you think it would have been harder for you to take that space for yourself if you hadn't been so successful, if you were just grinding just to pay the bills?
Well, I mean, I wasn't that successful yet. I mean, I had figured out some stuff for sure, but it wasn't like I was making millions of dollars. I think that it absolutely would have. And then I think, you know what, so really early on, I kind of figured out, it was actually passed down to me by a mentor called the Freedom Number. I talk about this in every single book I've ever written because I think it's so important. It's the most basic calculation you could ever do, which is figure out how much money you need to survive and cover your basic necessities and any dependents you have and, you know, debt, that kind of thing. What is that number each month? Like, most people don't know. And the reason that number is so valuable to know is it's super, you know, like rent, food, dependents, debt, and then I call it something extra for my girlfriend or wife fund. Like, what's that number? And the reason that that's so powerful is because the main reason why I think a lot of people don't do anything that they really think that they should do, you know, get in shape, work on a project, write a book, start a business, whatever, is fear. And fear is nothing but an irrational response to the unknown. You know, Seneca once said, if you wish to stave off all fear, imagine that the worst that can happen most definitely will happen. The only way to really get past fear is to make the unknown known, is to define the unknown. Because really, worst case scenarios, once you define them, are almost never as bad as what we imagine that they would be if we haven't defined them yet. And so if you're like, this is the amount of money that I actually need, well, that's cool. How much money are you currently making? Is it not that? Well, then your only job is to get out to that point. So then you look at the highest yield, highest margin activities. Usually that's some sort of coaching. Maybe you can, like in this day and age, man, go on Coursera, learn the basics of social media marketing, call up 50 companies and offer them for $1,000 or $2,000 a month to run their social media marketing. You know, like do some stuff on the side to get to that point if you need to, once you know how much money you have, because all that does is just frees you up that space to really think and figure stuff out, kind of take that step. And so to answer your question, I'm lucky. I mean, in every single way, I'm born to an amazing set of parents in Canada. And I was able to graduate university debt-free. So yes, I had every advantage in the world and I was able to do it earlier. But we've also helped tens of thousands of people do basically that exact thing. And it's with the process I laid out. How much do you need to make? Define that. Because once you define that, you can begin like a workout. What do you want to achieve?
Right.
Okay, let's work backwards. Let's establish the steps. And then it's just relentless execution and consistency.
And then it's not, you don't feel like you just have to make more, and it's not this endless progression, right? You have a very concrete thing that you're shooting for all of a sudden.
That's vision. I mean, I think about it with, like vision is the same with business, with workouts, with a big project. Where do you want to go? Cool. Define that. If you've never defined it, you can never get there because you always think that you need to do more. You always think that you need to lift another weight. You always think that you need to make more money. Whereas maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if you don't have that vision, you can't establish the path. And if you can't establish the path, you have no focus. You have no clue what steps to take. And in a world of infiniteness, of information, of advice, of experts, you will never have permission to take action because there's no finality in information. And you have to create that finality by defining where you want to go.
And when you start to experience some level of success, you also are just overrun by opportunity, right? And if you don't have vision, then you don't know which opportunity to take.
Sure. I mean, you nailed it. Like there's not much more to it than that. It's a blessing and a curse. Like there are so many things that I could do. There are so many things that you could do. There are so many people that we could call, so many tools we could leverage. But if we try to do it all, we're going to fall flat. Mm-hmm. We're not going to get anything done. And so how do you decide what to do? And how do you have confidence that what you chose is actually the right thing, that you can go deeper and deeper and deeper? Like I write books. My company publishes books, like not ebooks, like books. We don't do video. We don't do audio. That is crazy by conventional standards today. But you know what? It's going pretty good. And so, we do numbers that make a lot of marketers and also like editors of the biggest magazines in the world, we do numbers that makes them shake their head. And the reason is that's what we do, and we do it better than anybody else on the planet. And can you say, like we do books for fitness professionals better than anybody else in the world? There's no question. And the reason that we do that is because we don't have a podcast. Mm-hmm. We don't have a YouTube channel. We make that our focus, and then we use other things to kind of support it. Mm-hmm. Like the other tools are there maybe if you are super deep and you then are able to generate the resources to build teams to kind of syndicate and create other platforms to feed your greater thing. Cool. Build more arms on the octopus. But you got to build the fire first before you try to throw gasoline on it.
I love it. So you told me you had a question at a speaking engagement once from a kinesiology student. She says, we all know that we can't make money doing coaching, doing training. What did you say?
It actually wasn't a question for me. It was a event that both a mutual friend, John Brady, and I spoke at. And I had already spoken for the day. It was at the university. So basically he did his PhD a lot of years before me at the same university that we went to. And the professor who was his PhD advisor was also really influential in my life, but like many years later. I always make fun of JB. I'm just like, because you're so old, you were just way before me. But the question was to him on stage, and I had already spoken, and the student put up their hand, and they were just like, so considering that it's impossible to make a career or to make good money in the fitness industry, what do you think I should do with my kinesiology degree? And he kind of, it was funny. He kind of like took a step back, and he just looked at me. I was standing with his daughter actually, and with my wife in the back, and he's like, well, I'm doing pretty good. John, you doing pretty good? It's like, yeah, John's doing pretty good. Like, I guess it's possible, guys. The answer is, a lot of people enter in the industry as coaches, but coaching isn't for everybody. And coaching is often the first step for people. And it might be the last step too, or it might not. But the answer to that is to analyze what skill sets you have. Like, you don't have to be a coach to do well in the fitness industry, right? The fitness industry needs data analysis. The fitness industry needs managers, needs project managers, needs designers, needs everything that any industry would ever need. So if you're passionate about helping people, and if you understand fitness, like basically what it comes down to, if you were to picture like a Venn diagram, those like three circles that interact where, the middle is the sweet spot. Single industries are inherently uninteresting, and they're actually not that valuable. If all you have is a ton of information about fitness, it's actually not that valuable to very many people. And it's really not that interesting to a lot of people. But if you're able to intersect that with other industries, with other bodies of knowledge, well, now it becomes much more interesting. It's the intersection of industries, of schools of thoughts that is so valuable and so interesting. So like for me, yeah, it's fitness. I know enough about fitness. I don't know anywhere close to as much as you, man. But like, I know enough about fitness. I have a kinesiology degree. I worked as a personal trainer for many years. But I've also gone super deep into behavioral psychology. And I've also gone super deep into marketing and advertising. So when you actually pull out the intersection of those, stuff becomes pretty fun and pretty interesting. Mm. And there's a lot more opportunity. If you just say, I'm going to learn how to do a better and better and better and better squat, that's cool. But then you got to team up with somebody maybe who has the other schools of thoughts,
right?
Who can market you. You don't hear about people who sit in a lab all day. There's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm. Have you
It's
read
not
the
that
book?
it's not noble, but
Right.
but it's not a business. Like if the question is how do you make money in the fitness industry, that's not how you do it. You don't
Right.
become an academic. You become an academic who understands marketing and advertising and business development.
Right. Did you read the book Range?
I have not, but it's on my list. I just like, I love the library.
Yeah.
I think that the library is an underutilized resource. And so I'll take out like 4 or 5 books at a time. So I've got like 20 things on hold basically. And whenever they come due is just what I read. And the best thing about the library is you don't have to commit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll walk through there. I found this fascinating book about like the 2 people who took down Rockefeller, the Rockefeller monopoly back in the day.
Wow.
Like basically formed Royal Dutch Shell, which is like Shell oil. But like that whole story, it's just like on a shelf and I picked it up. And I'll pick up like 10 books at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I'll read 20 pages of them and decide whether to read the whole thing. And if I really love it, then I'll go and buy the book and I'll milk the crap out of it and dig into it. So that's on my list, but I haven't yet.
Yeah, I just bring it up because it kind of it goes along with what you're saying about kind of dabbling and sampling many things. It talks about the science behind a lot of the world's most successful people, whether that be athletes, entrepreneurs, etc. They found that we'll take athletes, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
The most elite athletes spent a ton of time playing a bunch of different sports and started to specialize really late. But we're taught in school that we should specialize, and that will create some safety, and we'll be an expert in something. But that's not what's usually happening.
Yeah, I always tell a story about this that some people really connect with and other people get really mad at me for. And I actually had an aunt who was like, I feel like that's not very nice to your parents. But I think that the story is didactic. I think there's a lot you can take from it. So, I mean, I was not the best student in school. School wasn't great for me. I just wanted to kind of read and learn myself. But I was really good at English I guess that makes sense now because I've written a whole bunch of books, but like I didn't know it at the time. But I was really good at English, and I really struggled with math just because I didn't care about it. And so my parents did the smart thing and they got me a math tutor. Like I was good enough at math. I had like a 60, 65, right? Like I was never going to fail. But my parents did the smart thing and got me a math tutor. Right? That's the smart thing, right? If you've got like an 85 in English and a 62 in math, get a math tutor and bring that math up to 75. I don't think that was the smart thing. I think they should have gotten me an English tutor. Why? Clearly I was good enough. I was never going to be a mathematician. I was never going to really use that. I was good enough at it. Like I understood it enough. But it was clear that I had a lot of skill, and it wasn't that I was going to specialize in English. But what it seems to me like what's really needed, and I don't know, maybe Range talks about this, maybe it goes against what they're saying. You need to be exceptional in one thing and pretty dangerous in a whole bunch of supporting skill sets.
What do you mean by dangerous?
Well, like there are certain skills that are transferable that if you're good at them, they will amplify every single thing you do.
Right.
For example, copywriting. If you're a good copywriter, if you know how to sell, you can literally do anything. I mean, it doesn't it's just transferable. Mm-hmm. And so as long as you're able to kind of build a whole bunch of those transferable skills, the basics of data analysis, the basics of web design and design, like I can't code a website, but I know enough about it that I can communicate with people who do.
Right.
I don't know the ins and outs of conversion optimization. But I know enough that I can, it's kind of like the Foreman thing. I know enough that I can really communicate and select talent amongst that and how to speak their language. But then there are certain skills that, I mean, copywriting is something I've gone super deep in, but I think you need to be exceptional at one thing. And then you need to be dangerous at these basic transferable skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's similar, but a little different than his main point. Yeah, very similar though. One of the most interesting pieces I found in that book was that he says an individual with a basic understanding of 10 different things is more powerful than a collection of 10 experts in those same exact things, because they can make more connections. They can be more creative across all of those different domains. Yeah, the individual
who has a lower, an absolute lower level of knowledge, but in all 10.
Exactly.
Versus 10 experts who have a high knowledge in one. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, follow your interest, your curiosity, and when you stop loving that thing, move on and start to master something else.
Yeah. Like you should have some decent understanding of and financial awareness. Mm-hmm. You know, like that. It doesn't matter if you have a really good financial advisor. Like, you should probably acquire a bit of a skill set in that yourself. No, I buy that. Again, it's the intersection. You know, if you can see those patterns amongst them, that will begin to compound. Yeah, I buy that.
Let's talk a little bit more about creating content. So people are starting businesses, they have a gym, they're starting online businesses, and they want to stand out from the crowd. And so they're starting blogs, they're doing podcasts, and a lot of them seem to be doing it because they just see everyone else doing it without without that decision being rooted in a principle or a long-term vision. So why do you produce so much content, and how do you think personal trainers and people in the fitness space should really be thinking about creating content if they're considering it?
Those are two totally different questions. Which do you want me to start with?
Why do you produce so much content?
Because it's fun and because we're really good at it. Really. You know what? At a certain point in time, business, for me, and this is different than a lot of people, didn't become a maximization thing, became an optimization thing. What can we do great? And how can we build a business around that? I'm really, really, really good at working and going super deep into a project and putting it out into the world and then never thinking about it again. Well, the perfect business model for that is a publishing model. That's not to say that this is the right model for somebody else. But over time, and a lot of personal assessment, I've done tons of psychology or psychological assessments and stuff like that on myself. And worked with a lot of experts and stuff like that. Just figured that out about myself, that this is how I need to work. So I built a business around that. And then I brought people in to amplify it. And now it's at the point where it's big enough where it's not just a publishing company, right? But it kind of started at that. So what's your skill set? Why do we produce so much content? Like, where are the opportunities? I always say, if they zig, then you zag. I think that there's a huge problem today where people blindly follow industry norms. Mm-hmm. When a model becomes a model that becomes generally accepted, the benefit is not in following the model. It's in recognizing what's missing from the model, because that's where the opportunities lie. So if everybody is following a model, what's missing from that? You know, if everybody is doing a certain type of content and there's a model around that certain type of content, that's cool. That's not to say don't do that, but also take a good look at it and say what's missing. And that's kind of a vague statement that I think a lot of people will be like, oh, that's kind of interesting, but like how do you visualize that? And unfortunately, I don't have a good answer, because it requires you to really look at your own skill sets. Like for us, that's paperback books. So what's the model right now in trying to acquire leads and customers? It's basically direct marketing, you know, is the big thing, because it's so...
What does that mean for people that don't know?
Direct marketing is trying to measure the results of some sort of advertising effort. And so if I spend $1, can I make back $1.10? Right? That used to be really, really difficult to do, because it used to be like legit, you'd buy a list from somebody, a mailing list of potential customers, leads, whatever it is. You'd send out a test mailing to that list, or do a test advertisement in a newspaper or magazine or whatever it was. And then you'd wait for people to cut out, like with scissors, like cut out a piece of paper, like write a check. Okay, put that in an envelope with a stamp on it and mail it back to you. You'd collect it over a certain period of time, and then you'd assess whether that mailing is worth enough to be able to go bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and buy bigger lists. That's, of course, when it was really, really hard. Well, what do you do now? You go click, click, click. Facebook, give me 1 million people who meet these guidelines. And you know within you get instant data back of how successful your advertisement is doing, and you can tweak it. And there's even a whole bunch of artificial intelligence around tweaking it and making it better automatically, and basically saying to the system, as long as my ROI, as long as my return on investment is X, scale ad spend. Well, that's super cool. The problem is I feel like that's making marketers a heck of a lot worse, because it's too easy to do a bad job. And when it's too easy to do a bad job, a lot of people do a bad job. So I started looking at that, and I said, okay, well, what's, cost per impression, or on the internet, cost per 1,000 impressions is generally what you measure it on. Like how can I maximize my cost per impression or cost per conversion, right? Well, if I'm sending somebody a book in the mail, what's my cost per impression on that? Well, all of a sudden now it becomes much harder to measure. So the model is use Facebook advertising, let's say, Facebook, Google AdWords, whatever it is. Use those things and measure the results. Cool. Like that's 100%. I'm all for it. And we do a lot of it, and we're going to do more and more and more of it. It's super effective. But if you're sending something physical in the mail that's actually sitting on their house, like a book that they actually want to be there, how many impressions are you now getting from that? Well, it becomes a very interesting calculation, because now they're sitting and looking at this thing every single day, right? And so you could never measure it, because you would probably get thousands upon thousands upon thousands of impressions from a single book that even if somebody doesn't read. So now if you're going to spend, depending on what type of market you're in, depending on whether it's local or online or whatever marketing, you're going to spend a couple bucks an impression now, right? You're going to spend, if you do a really good job, like 7 to 10, even $15 a conversion, like probably more than that, depending on the type of thing you're selling. Well, why would you not spend $15, $20 going in the hole, sending them something that's actually going to get you thousands of impressions over a number of years that they're then going to pass along to other people as well? Over time, to me, that becomes a much more interesting proposition. So if you're any kind of business owner, it doesn't matter whether you're a coach, whether you own a gym, whether whatever, think about what kind of physical things you can actually get in people's houses that sits there that they like, that's going to maximize the amount of time they're thinking about it and thinking of you as a result. And the reason why that kind of flies in the face of direct marketing is that if you have it, you would never be able to justify that as a marketing person in a bureaucratic organization, because it can't be measured. And that's one of the biggest problems. The model is so perfect of how you can measure advertising spend that it becomes literally impossible for anybody in a large organization to justify doing perhaps creative things that are a little bit outside of the model. Because if you do something that follows the model and it doesn't work, nobody gets fired. But if you do something that's creative and outside of the model and it doesn't work, you get fired. And if it does work, people say, oh, well, that's cool, it kind of worked, but why didn't you just do the other thing? That would have worked better. There's no reward for an individual, but there's a huge potential reward for an organization. And I think that's a lot of the exciting opportunities for small businesses now, is that they can play these games and play in these arenas that a lot of big organizations can't.
That is some good shit, man. I'm grinning ear to ear over here, guys. That is gold. So I'm sure you come across this all the time. It can be scary to pick one thing, or it can be scary to make a decision to do something that's not measurable and not trackable. What words of advice do you have for people that, they know they love writing, they know they love making videos, and they feel like they should just double down, but they're afraid of moving outside the model?
Well, the question is what doubling down is. I think, first of all, everything works. Like everything works. You can, if you write, blogs still work. I don't care what anybody says. Blogs still work if you do them well. Obviously, audio works great. Obviously, video works great. Local marketing works great. I know somebody who's crushing it. He's 14 trainers working for him that does local talks at corporations. Wow. He does 40 to 50 talks a year, fills up 14 remote trainers in Toronto. And the only reason why he's not growing more is because he can't find good enough trainers to fill. Toastmasters, Chamber of Commerce, like everything works. Literally everything works. The only thing that doesn't work is trying to do things that either you shouldn't be doing because they're not like suited for you, or trying to do a whole bunch of things and doing nothing well. Mm-hmm. So my recommendation for people is to say, what do you love to do? Do you love to talk? Great, do a podcast. Do you have a face for radio? Great, do a podcast. Do you, are you really great on video and you like video production? Cool, do video. And then of course, leverage that and turn that into a podcast anyway, because you may as well. Do you like to write? And you don't particularly like to do video or audio like me? Cool. Right. But when you decide what you do, that's what you do. You've made that decision and you're going deep into that for 6 months. A minimum of 6 months where you do nothing else. And when I say go deep into it, that means a number of things. That means improving your skill set on it, right? If you want to do video, well, you know what? You're going to take improv classes. You're going to learn stand-up comedy. You're going to go to Toastmasters. You're going to improve your skill at becoming a speaker. The same thing with writing. Okay, improve that skill set. You're also going to learn the basics of video editing. You're going to learn the basics of SEO if you're writing. You improve all of the technical skills and you go deep into that arena. You network within the networks that exist upon that medium. So learn the ins and outs of how YouTube works. Start networking within communities of other YouTubers in your industry, outside of your industry. Those are the events you go to. Those are the people you meet. Those are the, your dream 100 of contacts. And then you produce from the beginning and you just keep getting better and better and better. And then you start to figure out, okay, what metrics do I track? How do I measure my success on this? How can I improve these metrics? And you throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and start doubling down on the stuff that works. That's what I mean. Do that for 6 months. You will be successful. I promise you. And then the final bit of it is, how do I convert people from this platform? Right? Study how to convert people from that platform because it's different on every platform. Cool. If you do that for 6 months, you improve your skill set with it. You understand that the tech and the metrics behind it. You network within that platform, or within the communities that exist within that platform. And you go deep into the conversion mechanisms on that platform for 6 months. You're going to crush it. And at the end of those 6 months, you can say, cool, do I want to now start to branch out into another platform? Maybe, maybe not. Or do I want to just go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into this? But if you try to do a whole bunch of stuff, or a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to produce content for this thing. It's like, that ain't enough. Because you know what? You're not good yet. Mm-hmm. Straight up. Like, if you start doing anything, you're not good at it for a very long time. It takes work. It's supposed to be hard. And so get good. Like, get good at all the important aspects of that. And that's your only job. And that's vision, right? Like, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning. That's how you ignore everything else. And you know exactly who to listen to and what podcasts to listen to and what books to read and what to say. All right, I'm just going to keep a folder on my computer that's called a parking lot folder and put everything that seems interesting but is outside of this box. And then in 6 months' time, I can revisit that folder and decide whether it's worth my time or not, which most of it probably isn't.
Gold, man. So how does this apply to the rest of your life? One of my favorite things about you is that you seem to apply the same principle of focus and really giving your time and your attention to the things that are most special to you in your life. So what are some of the things, if anything, that you've had to give up to focus on what's special in the rest of your life?
I like that question a lot. The part that I don't like about that question is the part about giving up. Because I look at this whole idea of minimizing as a way to maximize. Mm-hmm. It's just doing an assessment of the shit that matters and the shit that doesn't, man. Like, I wear the same t-shirt every day. I have 8 black V-necks from a company called Unbound Marina. I'm sponsored by them now because I talk about them so much.
That's awesome.
It's the only t-shirt I wear. Well, when you think about the decision of what clothing to wear, what's that decision predicated on? Assuming that you don't really care about fashion. Like, if you care about fashion, like, that's totally cool. Like, that's what you care about. Awesome. Go deep into that. I don't really care about fashion. You know, when I wear clothing, there's two things. I want to feel like I look good, and I want to be comfortable. Okay, well, is wearing a different t-shirt from a different company going to affect my desired output in any measurable way? No. So how do I eliminate and make that decision as easy as possible? Well, I have 8 black V-necks, 2 navy blue, 2 gray.
Are V-necks still big in Canada?
What are you talking about? V-necks are big. Oh, in Canada. Is your wife Canadian?
Yes, she is.
A V-neck still big in Canada. Oh, do you guys still drive cars in the United States?
Touche, man. Touche.
Yeah, man. V-necks are still a thing. You know, for dudes who have strong necklines. Yeah, like V-necks are still a thing. Surprisingly, I know they are. And so, like eliminating that decision, you know, when my wife and I, so we have a 2-year-old now too. We have a 2.5-year-old, and we just came back from 7.5 months abroad with a 2.5-year-old. You know, like we lived in Montenegro for 3 months. We visited Serbia and Albania. We lived in Mexico for a couple months. We lived in Greece for a couple months on an island, like with a 2.5-year-old. And it was just, it's just, again, this ruthless execution of just simplicity and just maximizing the stuff that matters and just completely eliminating what doesn't. Like for our wedding, I'll give you 2 rules that we go by just to kind of identify this personally. For our wedding, you know, like any dude, I guess, I didn't really care like what color the napkins were and that kind of thing. But I got that like Allison wanted me to be a part of it, and that's totally cool, and I was happy to. So we just made a rule, and we just said, look, like I'm so happy, like this is shit. Like our wedding was beautiful. It was at a yacht club on the island across the water. God, it was beautiful. But it's like, okay, well, I don't really care about like the ins and outs of all of the details, but I totally appreciate that you need me to make a decision sometimes. And so here's the rule. If you ask me something, it's my job to make a decision. Or you just make a decision and I'll be happy with it. But if you ask me something, it's because you've kind of thought about this and you have an option between 1 or 2 or 3 things. And you want me to make a decision. And so, you know, it was like the color of the napkins. You know, do we go with white, off-white, or beige? Right? And so she asked me that because she couldn't, you know, it was a lot of effort on her end. And I think we downplay just the amount of energy we use to make seemingly minor, nuanced decisions every single day. And the cognitive overload and how much that takes away from our creative capacities and everything else, that if we can set a couple rules and principles to kind of eliminate those. So she asked me, and we do the same thing. It's like, you know, both of us, we like to eat out every once in a while. So that's cool. Generally, either of us are happy with the choice that the other person makes. So if it's a date night, because we do a date night every week. Okay, so if it's a date night and we're going to go out for dinner, the rule is if one person really wants a certain type of cuisine, then we say it. We say, I'd really love Japanese. I'd really love Indian. If they don't, then they ask the other person what they want, and it's the other person's job to make a decision. There's none of this, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? To me, that's just nonsense. Those are just like a couple super simple rules, man, that just eliminate so much of the stupid stuff that goes on every day that just allows you to focus on what's actually important. I mean, I want to spend time with my son, Calvin. I want to spend time with Allison. You know, I want to really have just special experiences with them. I don't want to be wasting time on a lot of these just little silly decisions where you're just thinking whether the other person is upset or what they, you know, oh, do they really want something but they're too nice to say it? It's like, nah, just set a rule once.
Mm-hmm.
That
long tail decision making, man.
Yeah,
gotta love it. Yeah, a really practical exercise I heard you give on another podcast was just to simply write down every decision you make in a day, which can probably be a little difficult because there's a lot that we don't even know. Like we're just making instantly, and it feels almost automatic.
There's a lot.
But write them all down, and then it seems like a really useful exercise. On top of that, is to ask yourself, are there any decisions I can make right now that eliminate my need to make this decision 1,000 more times?
Right. Even just going to the grocery store. What type of eggs do you buy? Why are there like 15 different types of eggs? Is there not a stupider thing than that? why are there 15 types of eggs? Do you really need to decide between small, medium, large, brown or white, organic or free range or omega eggs, and every iteration of those? Like make that decision once. What kind of eggs do I buy? Cool. Now you just walk in and you pick up that carton of eggs. Like, you just eliminated a really silly, needless decision out of your life. I mean, that's just a little silly example because I just think it's ridiculous how many different types of eggs there are, obviously. But that type of idea, for sure. And again, if you like something, if you love fashion, bro, go all in. And then eliminate stuff that you don't care about as much so you can go all in on fashion. Mm-hmm. That's totally cool. Like, you do you. Like, everybody likes different things. It's just a matter of maximizing the stuff you like and the stuff you like doing.
And then it frees up all of your creative energy, your willpower, your self-control. So it's not just to make fewer decisions. It's to save more of your energy.
100%.
So let's talk about relationships in business. I'm in the camp that believes that relationships are your most important asset in business, and it's what a lot of
you're
times
not talking about like loving or like spousal relationships. You're talking about just like relationships like you and I, get to know each
exactly
other. Okay.
And before the show, we were talking about an experience that we had where we were both a part of, and I still can't remember the name of it, a Canada Fit Expo of some sort, where we were both.
It was my conference. I put it on. I was hosting it. You were brought in by our partners, the Strong Pro Summit.
Yes,
doesn't exist anymore, but it was an association with the Toronto Pro Show. And we basically hosted the education component, and our partners brought you in, and we didn't get a chance to meet because you were in the fitness stuff and I was running the business stuff.
Exactly. And I was telling you before the show that this was probably 5 years ago now, and we've never met in person, and we've never met online either, other than that one expo where you reached out to a D&I, and there was something about the way that you did that has your name and your face just deeply imprinted in my brain. And so I've thought about you over and over the years. And so why did you do that? And how do you create relationships in a way that is beneficial for everyone?
I mean, I think a big thing that's missing. First of all, I love when people are like, before we started recording, we were talking about this thing. I just think that's always so funny. It's like, hey, listeners, before we started recording, we actually had the best part of this conversation. And you're never going to hear it, but like, it was super interesting and like fundamentally changed how I'm going to work my whole life. And, I'm really sorry you missed that. I just always love that.
And you can subscribe to the extras for $19.99 per month.
But only with my what is called Patreon.
Yeah.
Those are the extras. Those are the before the call notes. Notice that actually be kind of a cool extra because the chatter beforehand is always kind of interesting. Anyway, I think a lot of what's missing in relational equity and of networking these days is just being a real human, and just there's so much. It seems like there's so much that goes on these days where people are like, they're reaching out because they have a goal in mind. And I mean, we have partners, like anybody who's going to be a really good colleague and a really good partner to you, it's generally because they really like you and they really believe in you. Anybody, especially like a promotional partner, for example, we have some really strong promotional partners. We'll give them $200,000. It's not even a blip on their P&L statement. Mm-hmm. The amount of money we're giving them is nothing. It's because they believe in us. It's because it's a win-win. And as our companies grow together over the years, we're all going to win. It all starts by just being a good person, man. Like, it's so weird that I need to say that. What did I say when I reached out to you? We should have found the comment. I was probably just like, hey, dude, like super psyched for you and to come to Toronto, like really excited to meet you. Like that was probably all that it was.
Exactly. And you weren't trying to do business with me. You were just you were literally just trying to connect.
Just trying to connect. And so, how much of that is there? How many people reach out to you these days and they're just like, the amount of people, and I'm sure you get this a ton too, just because you're such a big deal. The amount of people who will reach out to me and just be like, hey man, I just wanted to message you. I saw this thing you did, or I really love this thing that you did, and it was really, really cool. And they mentioned it. It's like a super nice message. And I'll write back to them. It's like, hey, bro, like, that's so cool. Thank you so much. And immediately I get a message back asking me for something. And it's like, nah, that's not how this shit works.
Mm-hmm.
You say something nice to somebody. And so my method is I'll basically like build relationships with people that I think are legitly good over time and just support them in ways that they want to be supported. Like you could follow people and you can look for opportunities to escalate relationships. For example, if they're coming out with a book, you'd be the biggest fan of their book. So you can basically reach out to them, say something really nice to them, get on their radar, and then look for opportunities to escalate it, or basically wait for opportunities like you and I. Just you reached out to me, I guess, through JB, I think.
Through Facebook,
and just said, yeah, through Facebook. And they're just like, hey, I was talking to a mutual friend and he did a podcast and he said that you'd be great for it. Cool. That's an opportunity to escalate a relationship. Well, now we have a bit deeper relationship. It's awesome. Now, if we happen to be in the same place, maybe we'll go for a meal, And so basically I'll do a two-pronged approach. I have a list of about 180 of like close colleagues. And I send them all a birthday card. And in the mail. And it is automated. I put them into a system called Postable. And it's cool because I have all their addresses. Like I ask for all their addresses, but then you just go on Facebook and like find their birthdays. And so they're like, how'd you find my birthday? It's like, it's on Facebook. And just upload it. And basically what you do is you write a note and it'll mail merge it. But it's just like hey, like it's a picture of our family and it just is a happy birthday greeting to the person that goes automatically to them. So I said it once a year and it goes out to everybody that year on their birthday. And it just basically says like, hey, Mike, like wanted to wish you a super happy birthday, man. Really looking forward to getting to know you better in the coming year. I'm probably the only person who they got a birthday card from that year because who gives birthday cards?
Right.
And then, other opportunities like I said, like just figuring out ways to escalate relationships when the opportunity comes and just waiting and biding your time. Most of my really good friends in the industry and a lot of my powerful relationships in the industry, I've known these people for 6 and 7 and 8 years. And I've spent a lot of time with them, like actual time with them. And it's just been us hanging out. Like we legitimately enjoy each other's company. And then over time, you start to figure out what they really need in their business, which is almost never money for successful people. What do they really need in their business? And can you help them solve that problem? And if you can, say, hey, I got something that I think might work. And maybe it will and maybe it won't.
I love it, man. So what do you think is the biggest mistake of intuition that online trainers or people in the fitness industry are making when they're starting or trying to grow their businesses? So they think they should be doing X, but really Y.
They think that they should be creating content when they should really be talking to people. It's so funny. So I run, I think I'm sure it's the largest Facebook community. I think it's probably the largest online community of online trainers. We've got like 40,000 people in there. And we've trained I'm fairly confident in saying that we've trained more people to become either part-time or full-time online trainers, like to add it to their business than everybody else put together at this point. And it's funny because, we'll get people posting. They're like, I'm doing everything. I built this funnel and I ran these ads and I have this page and I'm doing this content and I'm not getting clients. What are you guys doing? What's working for you? And I'll just write back. I'm like, how many people have you spoken to today? And they're like, well, but like I sent out this ad and nobody's responding to the ad. So like, is it a conversion problem and maybe my headline needs to be different. And email deliverability is going down. So like, that's a big problem. And like, screw these algorithms. They keep messing with me and it's Facebook's fault. I'm like, how many people have you spoken to today? They're like, well, I haven't spoken to anybody. I'm like, maybe you should speak to people. Like maybe you should ignore all of that and like legit just have 5 conversations a day with people, with anybody. Doesn't even matter who. Somebody expresses interest in what you're doing, or Somebody on their own is doing something cool. A friend of a friend that you once knew that you're connected to on Facebook posts a video of them strumming away on a guitar or a live show. Well, why not send a message to them and just be like, hey, dude, I know it's been a while, but I saw this video you posted. Like, that was really good. That's awesome, man. That's rad. Nice job. Like that's literally how you fill your clientele. Because what happens then is a whole bunch of cool stuff. Well, now, once you've had a messenger conversation, now your stuff starts to propagate in their feed, which means they see you, which means they know that you're interested in fitness or your online business or whatever it is. And then it's just a matter of strength of weak ties. Like, Facebook or social media is about nothing if it's not about serendipity, catching a lucky break. And the better that you're able to position yourself in a way that you can increase your chances at catching as many lucky breaks as possible. Somebody that you know that knows somebody that's looking for an online trainer, and you're the person who's top of mind because you commented on their band video. That's how you do it. That's how you get started. It's not building a funnel with no thought of how you're going to funnel people through your funnel. Mm-hmm. And by the way, once you get into that game, it's a numbers game. Like, we actually have 2 rocket scientists, like actually trained, like it's not even me like saying it's like, oh, they're so smart, they're like, it's like, no, they're actually rocket scientists. like they're the ones who crunch the numbers for us and help manage the number side of our business. Like, that's what you need to compete, guys, if you're competing on funnels and paid advertising. Not to say that you can't get started without that, but like, that's what you're going against. Mm-hmm. Your competitive advantage in this game is that there's only one of you. And that's a pretty powerful competitive advantage. And that's pretty freaking cool. Mm-hmm. And the more you can be a human in a world where fewer people are being actual humans, the more people are going to want to work with you, because people buy coaches, not coaching.
One of the most frustrating things to me in the world is people getting obsessed with marketing really shitty products or really shitty services, right? They take one weekend course. They've never trained a person in their life, but they're an expert on building funnels and optimization, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what I've learned by actually talking to the people that I want to serve, that I'm currently serving, is it helps us build amazing products for those people. Yep. It helps me speak their language. It helps me understand them. It helps me empathize with them. Mm-hmm. It helps me feel connected to what we actually do rather than just being caught up in numbers all day or writing copy, quote unquote. So I really love that you just said that.
Copy is great. Copy is super important. And the only way to really write effective copy is to know your prospects' inner desires inside and out. What are they saying without saying? Mm-hmm. How do you read between the lines? And you need to have a lot of conversations. I mean, I've done multiple bouts of hundreds of phone calls with our audience, like 10-minute phone calls, just talking to them, mm-hmm. putting all that together. And there are frameworks to follow, like the jobs to be done framework is a really effective framework. Basically, like what job are you being hired to fulfill by your customers? And it's really, really interesting. You know, like a skateboard. You know, the job is not to put together a good skateboard. The job is fun and adventure, and the job is how somebody feels when they're, you know, whipping up and down the street. That's the job your product is serving. So as a coach, right, what's the job you're being hired to do? It ain't sets and reps. It ain't nutrition. It has nothing to do with that. Nobody really cares about those things. What people care about is how they're going to feel or feel like they appear as somebody who is the type of person who works out, right? And some programs have really jumped on that well. But how can you really know that without actually working with a lot of people? And that's why I say it's impossible to be good until you work with people. Like basically what we teach is step 1, get clients. Step 2, figure out the business. Step 3, scale. Because you need to first get on clients with the permission. Like, we actually have a challenge that we call the Founding Member Challenge, which Like we have like a 92% success rate getting anybody their first 1 to 5 clients. And it's organic, it's no paid, it's nothing. And the reason why we do that first is we're like, well, if you have clients, you're going to figure out how to do this thing pretty quick. There's this famous, probably apocryphal story with Edison where he would call in a press release to announce that he invented something before he invented it. So it would force him to invent it in that intervening time before the newspaper article would come out.
Amazing.
Or risk embarrassing himself. Yeah, and so like if you want to do online training, let's say, just as an example. I mean, this works for anything, guys, by the way, but if you want to do online training, well, you kind of need a couple clients who give you permission to figure it out as you go. And that's why we call it founding client. Like you're literally promoting a product and you say to people, you're founding clients to this in exchange for a discount. You're basically letting me test out this new service. Mm-hmm. So that's great because you have every element of a compelling offer as well. Go into like nerdy advertising stuff. You have every element of a compelling offer. So you convert people at a really high rate, but you also give yourself permission to take imperfect action. And you give yourself permission to take imperfect action in the eyes of your clients as well, because they know that you're figuring it out, and that's kind of what they bought in for. There's no way to figure out how to train remote clients unless you're actually training remote clients. And then once you've done that, then you learn the business and you study the materials. Like we have a certification and a textbook around this. Like you study the materials and you go through the program under the guise of, I've already worked with a couple clients, so I kind of understand what works and what doesn't work. And you start to appreciate the information and the nuance of the information more. And then you can work with our coaches and our mentors to put it together in the right way for you. But it's very hard to do that unless you've actually worked with people.
Right. But actually
so that's
doing the thing.
Yeah. Don't learn the thing before you do it. Do the thing imperfectly and have permission to do that. And then learn the thing after already having done the thing, because then you're going to basically skip ahead like 5 steps to learn the thing. And then you get on more people, and then you get better and better and better. And then you scale.
Love it, man. So before we wrap up, I want to talk about parenting for a sec. You've got a little boy.
It's no joke.
What are you most proud of in the way that you're raising Calvin right now?
I'm most proud that Calvin has lived abroad as much as he has. My wife is the strongest woman I know. She's so incredible. My son's been on 29 flights. He's 2.5. We've lived in Costa Rica for 3 months, in Dominican Republic for 2.5 months. We lived in Mexico for 3 months. We visited Spain for 10 days, lived on an island in Greece for 2 months, lived in Montenegro for 3 months, visited Serbia with him, went to, the Netherlands with him, and then came home. And he's so adaptable, man. He's so confident, so adaptable. Wow. And it's just so cool. He's getting to the point now where he speaks in sentences, and I can have conversations with my son, which is the best thing ever. Indescribable. To be able to actually have conversations with my son is so amazing to say. And he just kind of feels like he gets it. And it's not easy to do that much travel. And he's not a good traveler. People are like, oh, he must be a good traveler. It's like, nah, he's not. It's not fun, But
the getting there part.
The getting there part is not fun. And also just even when you're there, he's had 2 nannies, one in Costa Rica and one in Dominican, that didn't speak a word of English. Well, we don't speak Spanish that well. There's just lots of little things where my wife and I traveled for 6 years. We spent 4 to 6 months out of the country every year for 6 years. We never checked a bag once. Now we check 2 suitcases. The level of organization and structure that you need to bring in. But on the other hand, it's that constant process. You talked about analyzing and minimizing and figuring out what's really important. We talked about that a little bit. What's a really good way to figure out what matters to you and what doesn't matter to you? Is to pack up your stuff and leave every 2 months. And carry your stuff with you. Well, you start to really assess what matters and what doesn't matter. We don't own anything. We just bought a house in Toronto 2 weeks ago. And it's like a real house. It's like not a starter home. It's like a real house, and it's legit. We have like a big walk-in closet in our main room, and I'm like, okay, my backpack and my 3 shirts are gonna go there.
Yes. We can turn this into a sauna.
I'm like, I guess we need a couch and a chair, like that's how little we own, and it's just because, again, what's that famous line? The things you own end up owning you, like that Fight Club line. I think that's true, man. I think it's so easy to collect stuff these days, and then once you start to collect those things, you start having to like justify them, and obviously pay for them, but justify them and like collect upon them, and you start to represent yourself. So all of that travel with him and all of that travel with ourselves and exploring and picking up and moving and stuff has just forced us to really say, okay, well, on a constant basis, we're gonna restart. And now we know exactly. I mean, we've lived everywhere from caves, like legit caves and islands in Thailand, to the most luxurious, amazing like mansions, across the Caribbean and even Southeast Asia, to Pueblo Magicos in Mexico, to some of the biggest cities in the world, to communities, to towns. And like, as a result of all of those experiences, we have a really clear definition of exactly the type of house and the type of living environment we want and the type of community we want around us for us. How do you it's like going to university as a 17-year-old with no work or life experience. How do you possibly decide what to study that then is going to give you so much sunk cost that once you're done school at 25 or 26 or 27 or whatever it is with maybe a graduate degree, how do you replace that? Like you haven't made a good decision. How do you decide where and how you want to live when you buy your first house if you haven't already lived a whole bunch of different ways? Maybe you'll make a good decision, but it's not the optimal way to make a decision. So anyway, I mean, I'm proud of that. I'm proud that we've been able to do that with him. I'm proud that we've been able to experience so many amazing experiences with him, and also that Alice and I, we had a nanny who traveled with us the entire time this past year. Like, Alice and I spent our 3-year anniversary trekking through the Albanian Alps. We took a bus from Montenegro to Albania and trekked in the mountains for 4 days. And Calvin was with our nanny, so that Alice and I were able to have a lot of those experiences too. I'm really proud of. Can be hard to accept help like that.
Yeah. But, that's awesome, man. That's super inspiring. Yeah. It's been fun. Congrats on the house.
It's no joke, dude. It's no joke. Like, it's becoming a real human is weird. Becoming an adult is weird. It's I didn't think it would happen. It's not quite true. I knew that it would happen at one point. But yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. We're really excited to furnish it. I told my wife that there's one thing that I want when we buy a house, which is a monkey lamp, and I've been saying that for years because she's always a monkey lamp, like a lamp shaped like a monkey. Okay. And I don't know why. It's just been like a stupid thing that I've been saying for like 5 years because she's been like, she's good, like she gets me. She knows that she can't like I'm stupid. I'm super pig-headed. So if I don't want to do something, I won't do it. And so she knows that she's been like slowly like working away at me for a long time. And so I was like, fine. But when we get a house, I want a monkey lamp. And I've always said that. And so the first thing that she did when we bought a house was send me a bunch of listings for monkey lamps. It's like, that's fun. Trying to create your home is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So for online trainers, people that were thinking about going online, people that want to run a better gym or just have a better career in the fitness industry. Sure. What is the best book for them to start with of yours?
If you are interested in online training specifically, we have a book called The Wealthy Fit Pro's Guide to Online Training. If you do go.theptdc.com, THEPTDC.com, you can get it, but you can also find it on Amazon as well. It's just if you get it from us, you get it cheaper and we'll give you the free audio and stuff like that. But The Wealthy Fit Pro's Guide to Online Training is where you want to go to for that. If you're just new to the fitness industry, there's a couple books to start with that I would suggest starting, because I don't think you should do online training unless you have at least a year experience in the gym. Probably more, but a year minimum. So Wealthy Fit Pro's Guide to Starting Your Career, or my most popular book, Ignite the Fire, if you're just starting in the industry.
Awesome, man. And you're on Facebook, as John Goodman Fitness, I believe.
I don't actually know. It's a good question.
I think that's it.
I mean, if you search Johnathan Goodman, you'll find me. But like personal trainer development centers, like I screw around on my own platforms. Like I don't know, the whole personal brand thing. It's just like pictures of me and my kid.
Yeah,
like, that's not interesting for you. It's just like a selfish way for me to like follow me there if you want. Doesn't matter. But personal trainer development center is, we've got 1,000 free articles, professionally edited articles on the site. We've got huge communities, stuff that you can go as deep or as shallow as you want. Personal Trainer Development Center is the website.
Awesome, man. Well, I so appreciate you, dude. You are so ethical and energetic about what you are doing in your career, and it's just so attractive. I appreciate your time, man.
I'm glad we got to hang out.
Likewise.
This episode is brought to you by Working Against Gravity, or WAG. WAG does one-on-one nutrition coaching to help you lose weight, lose body fat, perform better in the gym, and also just to help you feel more comfortable and confident in your own skin. WAG also trains people to become nutrition coaches themselves and to start online nutrition businesses. So this one is special for me because I am the director of marketing and the president of WAG. My wife started the company about 5 years ago. And what I admire and respect about her and her team most is that the number one value and focus of attention at the company has always been on the coaching service itself. So even after reaching 2,000 members, when they could have focused more on marketing or selling more things, they continue to make the coaching service better and better and better. And that's why so many people get amazing results. I think we have something like close to 1,000 testimonials and transformation photos on our website that you can check out. And such a high percentage of people get amazing results on this program. And that's because the main focus point of attention on of the entire company has been on making the coaching service better. So what you get when you sign up is, first and foremost, accountability. You get a real human being, an expert on nutrition science and the art of coaching that will be with you every step of the way, holding your hand through the entire process. You get education through our members only knowledge base. You get access to a private members Facebook group. And when you sign up, you'll fill out a questionnaire. We'll get to know you. We'll then pair you with the coach that best suits your personality and your experience. And then they will create a custom nutrition plan. They will send this through our software system, Seismic, and week over week, you will communicate with your coach through a weekly check-in. You'll log what you're eating. If that's what your coach wants you to do, you will give them a summary each week. And then every single time you check in, they will give you strategies and tips for how to overcome your unique challenges or obstacles in your nutrition. I've been a client myself for many, many years, and I've tried just about every diet in the world. And I can truly, genuinely say that this thing works. This coach is someone that will be in your corner, is supportive, is really rooting for you, and has done this with hundreds or thousands of people before. So whatever your obstacles are, I can almost guarantee that if you're willing to put in the effort and really go after it, then you can get the results that you're after. So again, if you go to workingagainstgravity.com and enter the code BRUTE50, that's BRUTE 50 at checkout, you'll get $50 off of your first month of membership. Also, if you want to become a nutrition coach yourself because your life has been transformed by nutrition or a nutrition coach, and you just really want to give back and you want to join the digital workforce, then you can join our wait list right now at workingagainstgravity.com.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Your journey towards better fitness continues. Head over to brutestrengthtraining.com to connect with Michael and his guests. Access links and resources mentioned in this episode, as well as bonus content exclusive to podcast listeners. That's brutestrengthtraining.com.